what can I say? I've returned. And I wanted to share my experience from yesterday. So I figured what better way to hop on here and just spill my guts of everything. So, yeah. Yesterday was heavy. Yesterday was one of those days that just broke me. I just reached a point where the weight of everything was like unbearable. Even while trying to hold it together at work, I let a little slip emotionally. And, you know, I got the option to go home, or the option to work, actually, you know, whatever I chose to do. But I did take the initiative to schedule an emergency therapy appointment with my therapist, Jessie, at Live Springs. So, you know, that's a positive. I thought, you know, like, who knows my mental health journey better than I do? I've been on this thing for, well, the suicidal part of it for the last 4 years, but, you know, in a moment of desperation, I did text 988. I was just hoping, I don't know what I was hoping for. Just somebody to listen. But, yeah, it ended up feeling just really cold and automated. And I was convinced, and I'm still convinced, that 988 is AI. Now, I don't doubt that maybe somebody is there monitoring a bunch of chats, but I didn't feel like I was getting like any kind of human interaction, and that upset me. And I might have said some things provokingly, like about some pills or whatever. I was just seeing if I could poke through to see if I can get a human, but never prevailed. I was still convinced AI, and I eventually stopped the conversation. That led to the cops coming to my house, which I took off work early and was going to go to my therapy appointment at 1, and here the cops show up a little after 12. This one officer, really sweet guy, Nick Goller, this guy, really nice, really genuine guy, shared a lot of personal stories, and you know, I felt his compassion. Really nice guy. Also, my old buddy, who's been here many times, came again, along with another officer. So there was 3 cops yesterday at my house. Footage come later if I can edit it. But, yeah, nice guy, but still wasn't like, they didn't believe me that I had things handled. Kept pressing like I was lying to them. Like everybody thinks I'm fucking lying to them, like I'm being guarded and held back. This literally makes me feel insane. So he took me to the ER and put a temporary hold. I cannot tell you how embarrassing it is to go back to the ER after you start working at the hospital and then like, oh yeah, what is she doing here? You know, like what the... I was trying to avoid that at all costs. Couldn't do it. While in the ER, I was placed in segregation, just a room, mattress, nothing else. I spoke openly to the charge nurse. I spoke openly to the social worker. Both convinced, guarded, hiding. Didn't believe me. Nothing against them, I guess, but it just, I felt like I was just talking out into the ether and like, is anybody listening to me? I'm telling you, like I had this handled. But yeah, they felt like I was hiding something, so they wouldn't let me discharge and even threatened to put me on a 72-hour hold. So I gave in, and they found me a bed at Bloomington Meadows, and I took an ambulance ride there later in the evening. Mind you, all day I left before lunch. I'd been drinking maybe like a bottle or two of water, like super dehydrated, no food. But I will say, if you want to lose about 6 pounds, I think, you stay up 24 hours, drink nothing but water, and eat maybe half a disgusting ham sandwich that they offer you at Bloomington Meadows, and maybe like half of like a granola bar. They're golden. By the time you get back home, you lost about 6 pounds. So there's a positive to all this, people. Seriously. Yeah, took the ambulance right up there. The admission process was a nightmare. Talking to this older doctor, which I think they have a lot of people that are, what do you call it, that don't actually work at the hospital. They're kind of like honored. I forget what the term is, but I mean, she was just straight up being like, would not, I know recurring theme, but would not believe me, would not, you know, like, oh, something brought you here. And I was like, yeah, something did bring me here. It was the ambulance. And she didn't appreciate that, but I felt like I was going insane by the end of the night. By sitting in this admission room and like telling the third time telling people that, hey, I had this handled. I might have slipped up when I texted 988 and got a little upset, but Can that not be overlooked? I guess not. So she left the room, left me with the paperwork to sign, and I was looking over and I made sure I wasn't signing shit that was holding me liable. And that meant their entire 4-page consent form, which was consent to treat, but also consent like to guarantee payment. I was like, fuck that. Like, I don't even want to fucking be here. So I didn't sign it, but she gathered it up. I guess she thought I signed it. So everything kept moving, and by the time I got back to the unit, and before they were going to get ready to do the skin check, the skin tag, whatever, check you for whatever, look at you naked, basically. One of the nurses or techs or something came in and, you know, was like, oh, you didn't sign here, you know, and I was like, oh, what is this? And I looked over and I was like, I recognized it, the 4-page sheet, and I was like, flipped it on, I was like, oh yeah, I'm not signing this because I'm not sure that even my insurance is going to be covering this, and I'm not going to be footed for the bill. And she's like, well, you don't understand. You don't sign this. You can't be back here. Like, we can't treat you. And I was just like, oh, well, okay. Where's the door, please? She didn't like that. Like, she got really, like, frustrated at me. And, like, I gotta make a phone call. Called up front. And then I argued. A lady came back. Not the same lady, but a different one that was doing an admission. They were doing an admission with this girl that I think might have had multiple personalities. I don't know if that's the correct term anymore, but I kept hearing her in the other room, and then when the other person would leave, I would hear her conversating with herself, and it sounded like 2 different people. Like, I think that was the first time I came across somebody with that. So that was interesting. Even though 5 minutes in, I was almost about ready to yell down the hallway to shut the fuck up because she was super fucking annoying. Not her fault, but I was stressed, and I had been up at that point for like 18 hours. So, you know, don't hold it against me for being a bitch. Yeah, so that lady came back, and we went back and forth, and she was really nice, and she was actually listening to me, and I was explaining how this is all a mistake, how, like, you know, how the ER at my town wasn't listening, and da-da-da, and then I was like, what? I said, the lady who did my admission, what did it say in there? Because everything I kept saying, like, I don't see how the fuck she came up with anything of me being suicidal. I did the check sheet, and, you know, nothing should have rang true. It would have been like, oh, we need to admit her. Not listening. Prejudging. So she went back and forth, and she said, like, well, if you don't sign this, then I'll have to call the doctor, and once again I got threatened with a 72-hour hold. And at that point I was like, fuck it, let it ride. I was like, well, I guess you're gonna have to do what you need to do. I was like, damned if I do, damned if I don't. Because she told me initially, even if I was here voluntarily, I said, how long am I going to be here? Oh, maybe 5 to 7 days. And I was like, oh, what's the difference? I could just be on a 72-hour hold. And she's like, well, it's Friday tomorrow, and weekends don't count, or Fridays don't count, and blah, blah, blah. You'll be here until the next week. And I was just like, I don't care. I was tired of feeling like I was insane. And I was like, maybe the doctor will see, I don't know what they actually showed him or what. It very possibly could have went wrong, and he just would have believed them and said, you know, take her rights away. But I rolled the dice. So she came back and she's like, if I give you a waiver and you sign it, you know, holding the hospital not responsible, like if you leave here and you hurt yourself or you die, we're not going to be held responsible. So I was like, bring it, let me sign that. Not thinking that it was already like close to 1 o'clock in the morning. And yeah, an ambulance brought me up here. How the fuck am I gonna get home? So I sat in the waiting room after being discharged. I put a post out onto Facebook asking any night owls, and I got a genuine response from a solid friend, an old friend, Jared. And he came through, and I filled up his gas. I gave him extra money, you know, and I arrived home. And I'd since slept a little bit, not a lot, maybe 4 hours. But awoken anew, you know, trying to keep distracted because I don't want them to be fucking right. I don't want this shit creeping up on me. But it does. It does worry me. So, was I being a coward? Should I have stayed? Was I running away from something? I did hear from a friend while I was, I called her while I was going up there in the ambulance, and she was telling me I do come off very flat, and maybe I seem like I'm hiding something, so but am I hiding something from myself is the question. None of you are gonna know, and maybe I don't even know. Maybe I do. Maybe I'm really insane. I felt insane last night. That was the closest to, you know, the mentality, how you kind of create criminals. I feel like you can create mentally, well, I mean, I'm already mentally ill, but even though you think you're doing well, you put that person who already have issues, put them in a little room that you have no clue what time it is and shit like that, and then every time somebody would come in here and there, you'd be so grateful. And it was kind of like, it was literally kind of like a good cop, bad cop situation. Well, as soon as you sign this, you can go back to the, like at that Bloomington, like as soon as you sign this, you can use the restroom. Because I had to fucking pee for like 4 hours sitting in the intake room. And then when I finally got back to the unit, and then all this shit happened, and I was like, can I just use the restroom? And they're like, no, you can't. You can't be on the unit. You can't be on the floor until we check you for skin lesions and tags and whatever. And we can't do that until you sign the consent. So, you know, as soon as you do that, Sure, you can have a basic human right of going to the bathroom. Fucked up. No? I can only imagine if I was there 72 hours with no rights, how that would have went. You know, it's a harsh reality that sometimes when we're at our most valuable, when we're at our most vulnerable, right? The systems in place to support us can make us feel even more isolated and unheard. I don't want sympathy. But if you've ever felt unheard, maybe you could commiserate with me on that. If you ever felt unheard or misunderstood, you know, you're not alone. You know, as the old cat poster says, like, hang in there. There are people who understand, like that very last lady at Bloomington Meadows, and I thanked her tremendously when I said, thank you for listening to me. And that has been my last 24 hours. Insane or no? Sound off.